guys. Welcome back to another week of Evolve. I am your host, Monette Brann-Natta. I'm so happy to be joining you today and sharing some energy with you. I'm also happy because I get to share some energy with one of my favorite people about one of my favorite subjects, which is how we make better people enter into our world. Now, this is a show that we had talked about doing, and we got caught up with our schedules, but it is finally here, and it's actually a throwback to a Mother's Day show. Kate, my friend who will be joining us in a moment, is a single mother who is raising an incredible kid. He is smart, top of his class, an incredible athlete. He's funny and handsome and popular, and she's done this feat by having her family around her, but essentially by being a single mother. And I wanted her to join me today and share some of her insights because she's often studying and learning how to be a better parent. She's often seeking guidance from God and spirituality in order to make sure that the child she sends into the world is a child that is respected and loved, but is a child who respects and loves himself primarily. That's what I think is so important. I think she has a great message to share with you today. So I'm so happy to welcome my friend Kate. Welcome to the show, Kate.
Thank you. It's so nice to be here.
It is great to have you. And we had been talking a lot about a couple of things, and we've been doing reading and bouncing ideas back and forth, and you shared with me something or someone that you had run across recently that has been inspiring to you about the premise of parenting and how we do it, and some secrets about what we are doing subconsciously with our kids that some people may not be aware of. So can you tell us a little bit about Dr. Shefali?
I can. I came across her watching a Super Soul Sunday with Oprah, and she caught my attention, and she was just so insightful and brought things to my awareness that I kind of knew and I kind of practiced already, but I didn't really have it in my conscious mind that I was doing it. And she basically was saying that we as parents have these kids and we think that we are just supposed to control them and make them turn out the way that we see fit, not realizing that they are their own people, born with their own gifts and abilities, and really our job is just to nurture them and send them on their own path that they have set before them, instead of putting our expectations and our hopes and our dreams on their shoulders. And we forget that they're their own people already, and they have their own journey to travel and experience, and we're just there to help them, really.
You know,
and that's kind of the gist of the show.
Yeah, and I've looked into her some, and she has an extensive study for anybody listening that would be interested in looking her up. She has her own website. You can watch her TED Talk. She's been on Oprah, like Kate said. So there is a lot of information that Dr. Shefali has put out, and it's really catching on her energy about the way that we parent. But when you said that to me the other day, it caused me to reflect, because I realized that I played the clarinet like my mother did because she was in the police band in her country. And so when I was in band, I played the clarinet. I played sax and a few other instruments, but that was her primary instrument. And I played it. I never questioned it. I never really wanted to play it. I played it for many years, though, because it's what my mother said I should do. And she was in her own way living out her part of her life that was a fun and exciting thing for her, and hoping that it would be fun and exciting for me. I don't think at all it was anything malicious. I think she thought, oh, I had a great time. You should have a great time. But I didn't really ask myself what I wanted to do, and I think that it made me realize about parenting just how hard it can be, because your parents are only ever doing what they think is the right thing for you. And that's why I love where Dr. Shefali has elevated this to, because sometimes we need to think about what is the right thing for our kid. And I wonder, does that come across your mind when you're working with your son, Ethan?
All the time. I just want him to be successful and have a good life, and I want him to be happy. Yeah, I think that's every parent's goal. We don't go into parenting, oh, I just really want to screw my kid up. That's not what we want to do, but sometimes we end up doing that because we put these expectations on them that it's not their job to meet. We have our lives to live, and we can leave behind our legacy, and it's not their job to carry out our legacy. That's our own journey. So it was so eye-opening, and I've really been blessed because I really never had those expectations. My parents really just wanted me to explore, do my own thing, and be who I was. So I've kind of done that for Ethan without realizing it until I heard her talk, and that he is his own person. And lately, especially now that he's 15, that's becoming more evident and sometimes more challenging. Parents of teenagers will definitely, I'm sure, share that opinion, because it's tough. It's a hard road because you still have to shelter them somewhat, but they're going to be on their own soon, so they really have to experience a lot of things that are hard, especially hard for parents to watch.
And how do you send him out into the world and not parent from a place of fear?
That's really difficult because being older and being, have lived so many heartbreaks and just wanting him to not have to experience that, but it's what makes us who we are. And so we just have to kind of stand in the background and let him live his life, let him live his journey. And I think a lot of parents parent out of fear, and that's where all the control comes in, because we shelter them and we don't want them to experience this or that. And it's just, you have to let them, fall down, scrape their knees, and realize that they can get back up and it's going to be okay. They can keep going.
Well, I've watched you do that with Ethan in many instances, and on the show, as we walk through many different mothers and their various experiences, I often talk about the term helicopter mother and those mothers that hover. And I wonder if you've ever experienced observing that, because I know it's not you. I watch how you parent, and you are not that mother. But have you ever experienced that, and what do you think about that? And where do you think that comes from? And is it just that place of fear like Dr. Shefali identifies, or is it something else from your observation of helicopter mothers?
I think it is fear. I really do. And we just had an experience with one of his friends, and his mother is kind of a helicopter mother, involved in every tiny aspect of his life, just everything that you could imagine. And Ethan decided he didn't want to play basketball anymore. Which was surprising for me. He fought so hard. He asked the coach on his own, can I come to the workouts? Can I do this? Can I do that? And once he got into it and really experienced and what it was like, he decided that wasn't for him and he didn't want to do it. And I was okay with that. It's his life. It's his body. He has to put through the really intense workouts, and it was his choice. I was okay if he did. I was okay if he didn't. But he told his friend, one of his best friends, and he just went off on him, telling him just really hurtful, mean things, and called him a few ugly words. And it just really broke my heart. My heart broke more than Ethan's did, actually. And
well, yeah, I remember that day because we spoke about it. Yes, she called Guy, so this is what we do as friends. We touch base throughout the day and keep our sanity together. And so she called me or texted me and said, this is what's happened. And I could tell, even in the text, I could feel her energy. And I thought, this is one of those hard moments where you're sending your kid out, and then people can have their opinions about your kid. And it's incredible because you have to figure out how to swallow down your fight emotion of mama bear, but also figure out for your kid. And I like this story because Ethan figured it out because he's so smart. He's so intuitive himself, and he got it. But before we get to how he walked through it himself, I want to really touch on, not necessarily the ugly words the guy said to him, but I want to talk about the energy of the words about you won't have friends if you don't do this, because I think that speaks to the helicopter mother's fear, and any mother out there that may be doing it, that they don't realize they're imparting it to their children. And the reason I'm saying this to Kate today, guys, is because I want you to understand, listeners, that This kid, it was not a bad kid. They're still friends. Everything is fine because kids are kids. They figure stuff out much faster than we do sometimes. But I identified when Kate told me some of the things that were being said that this is coming directly from the mother, which is what I said to Kate. Before I even addressed the situation with Ethan and her hurt feelings, I said, let's understand. It's something that Zig Ziglar says. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. And so my heart and empathy went to the mother, not because I felt bad for her, but because I understood she is driven in a way that she's driving her kid, and her kid's putting that onto somebody else now, because that is how life works. So what were a couple of the identifying statements or the derogatory statements, not necessarily the name calling, but the statements that the child made to Ethan?
He told him that he wouldn't have friends if he didn't play a sport.
He wouldn't have friends.
Right. He's played sports since he was 3. But I've
yes,
always
he has.
told him, yeah, he has. He's just a natural. But I've always told him that's not where your identity is. You're more than just sports. You know, you are so many other things. So he loved it, and that's why I let him play, because he loved it. He enjoyed it. And so he called him that, you know, he wouldn't have friends if you didn't play sports, and then also that he would be lazy. You're just going to, you know, lay around all summer and be lazy and get fat. And
which is so funny.
Yeah, because Ethan is extremely active anyway. And so those are really the two main things. He didn't call him any really horrible things, but me as a mom, I was just livid. I was so upset because they had been friends since kindergarten. So I was like, how could he say that? You know, I was just mama bear all in. And so it was actually Ethan who really kind of put me in my place and said, Mom, in his mind, he's being a good friend. I know he's just trying to be a good friend and motivate me. And that's not how it works. And I'm okay with that. Like, he calmed me down. He said, you're more upset than I am. And so he was very insightful, because I was just all over the place and upset. And I was like, you're right. You're right. And, but yes, he is very, the friend is very driven, by success, he's got, I think he's third in the class of Ethan's class is like 540 kids. He plays many sports. He's just very driven that way. And I think that's where he gets his validation and his acceptance. And, yeah.
That's where it is. That's the crux of the issue. It's about validation, I think, for kids, I think for parents. I think other parents want to be validated in other parents' eyes. And so they want their kid to excel so they can say, look, I apparently am a good mother, because we always have heard it said, your child is a reflection of you. And what I would love to shift the conversation and the narrative to is your child is an extension of you. They don't necessarily reflect you, and I don't think that they have to. But I'm not a mother, so these are my observations as just an interactor with people and being a teacher over the years. But that's really what I've seen you do. Ethan is an extension of you, but you've never sought to make him a mini-me of you in any way, shape, or form. In fact, your personalities couldn't be more different, okay? They just couldn't be more different. But Ethan absolutely is an extension of you, and you've always protected his autonomy, you've protected his innocence, you have spoken up for him, and you've allowed him to experience childhood on his terms, which is a hard thing to do. And that's why I'm always so impressed with you, is because without having the father figure there, you have managed to raise a young man who is actually a man. A lot of women I've had ask me questions during readings, how do I do this? How do I model this for this person? And you've managed to do that. And I know you attribute some of that to family. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
About family, or how?
About family and their influence with Ethan in the aspect of how do I model male energy to this young man that I'm raising?
Yeah, that's been a concern of mine, because my dad's older, and I have 2 brothers that we're not super close. Now, when he was younger, he spent a lot of time